Have you ever felt like your mind was a messy room, cluttered with thoughts, worries, and nameless noise? You might be sitting still, but your mind is running in circles. You try to focus, but everything feels chaotic, like a noisy marketplace. In the pressure-filled world we live in, and our minds are like rush hour traffic horns, blaring chaos everywhere, and no space for peace. But what if there was a way to clear that room? What if there was a path that could make your mind as still as a calm lake, where every thought gently settles like a falling flower? Buddhism and meditation have long offered that path, a journey back to the natural stillness within. It's not about escaping life, but learning to live fully while remaining grounded in peace. And today, we'll explore just that: how to empty the mind, to live with a clear, quiet heart no longer swept away by the noise of the world. Listening to your own heart, the first step to freedom. Some mornings, you don't wake up because of your alarm, but because of a heaviness inside, a worry you can't quite name, a tiredness that isn't just physical. You get out of bed, make coffee, scroll your phone, and dive into a sea of images, headlines, and noise, without ever asking one simple question: how is my heart doing today? We ask others this all the time. Are you okay? But rarely do we turn inward and ask ourselves. We're so busy that we forget our inner world is alive. It feels, it gets tired, and sometimes it just needs us to listen. The Buddha once said, "Better than winning 1,000 battles is the victory over yourself." But how can we win that battle if we never stop to understand ourselves? There's a saying, the mind is like a lake. If it's stirred, it cannot reflect clearly. So ask yourself, how long has your mind been stirred up? How long have you been living only on the surface, rushing through responsibilities, chasing approval, performing for others without taking a moment to sit, to breathe, to look inward? You could spend hours meditating, go to temples, chant every day. But if your heart is starving for presence, if you're not truly meeting yourself, then none of it brings peace. The noise in our lives, anxiety, sadness, restlessness, it doesn't come from the outside. It comes from one thing. We've forgotten ourselves. We've abandoned the one person who needed us most, our own inner being. But the moment you stop, even just briefly, and ask, am I listening to myself? That's the very first door back to freedom. True freedom isn't about running away from life. It's not quitting everything to live on a mountaintop. Freedom begins the moment you listen to your own heart. A man once asked the Buddha, "What's the shortest path to end suffering?" The Buddha didn't answer immediately. He smiled, paused, and asked, "When your heart suffers, do you hear it?" That question isn't just for him, it's for all of us. Because we often try to escape pain by replacing it with new hobbies, new relationships, new goals. But few of us sit quietly and ask, "Hey heart, what are you hurting about? Who are you angry at? Do you feel unloved?" When you truly listen without trying to fix, solve, or judge, your heart will speak. It will tell you what it needs. Just like a child who's been left alone too long, sometimes all it takes is for you to return. Hold it gently with your presence. That's when it stops crying. Buddhism isn't about how many sutras you memorize. or how fluent you are in spiritual terms. It's about this simple power to return to yourself with mindfulness. Some people can live in the middle of chaos and still feel peace. Some go through heartbreak but never lose themselves. Not because they're stronger, but because they've learned to listen. They don't wait for their heart to scream before they pay attention. They don't wait for illness to ask, "What's happening inside me?" So are you living in tune with your heart, or just following society's schedule? Listening to yourself doesn't require rituals. It just takes a few minutes each day. Put your phone down, close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and ask, what is my heart longing for right now? What haven't I accepted yet? What feeling am I pretending not to feel? You don't need answers right away. Just show up, be present, be kind. That quiet, loving attention, that is what heals. And that healing, that is the true beginning of freedom. A true practitioner of the Buddha's path doesn't need to abandon the world. They simply return to themselves again and again, right where they are. They create moments of stillness in the middle of busy days. They understand, no one makes you too busy to listen except you. And when you finally learn to listen, you'll discover your sadness doesn't need someone to fix it. It just needs to be acknowledged. Your anger doesn't need to be silenced. It just needs to be understood. Your worry doesn't need a perfect solution. It just needs your presence. We can't teach others how to find peace if we ourselves are disconnected from our own hearts. As the Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. Rely on yourself. Do not depend on others. And that's where real freedom begins. In the quiet, consistent, tender act of coming home to your own heart. Simplicity brings peace. The secret of a quiet garden. Have you ever felt mentally exhausted, but couldn't quite point out why no one insulted you? There was no bad news, and yet your mind feels like it's carrying too much layer upon layer of invisible weight, pressing in, making it hard to even breathe. We live in an age where information travels at the speed of light, but silence has become a rare luxury. Each morning, the moment you open your eyes, there's already a long list waiting work kids, emails, messages, finances, and even other people's opinions. The more we try to keep track of, the less space we have to simply live. The Buddha once said, "The wise are those who know what to let go." It doesn't mean abandoning everything in life. It means knowing how to release the things that weigh down the heart. The mind is like a garden. If you don't take care of it, if you don't pull the weeds or clear the debris, then even the most beautiful seeds can't grow. And those weeds, they're the unnecessary thoughts, nameless worries, and mental clutter we carry without even noticing. People often come to me and say, "I don't feel at peace, but I don't know what I need to let go of." I smile gently and ask, "Are you holding on to too many things that don't actually matter?" The truth is, most of us don't lack time. What we lack is space, inner space. Every trivial thought, every hour lost scrolling through social media, every vague anxiety about the future. It's like adding more furniture into an already crowded room. And eventually, there's no room left to simply sit down with yourself. Buddhism teaches the middle way, not extreme renunciation, not clinging to everything. Just simplicity, letting go of what isn't essential, keeping what nourishes the body and soul. Imagine this: each morning you spend just 5 quiet minutes. No phone, no news, no planning your to-do list, just stillness. You begin to hear your own breath. You begin to feel the rhythm of your heart. You begin to see clearly what thoughts truly matter and which ones are just habitual noise. That's mental hygiene. Like a gardener pulling weeds, you're making space for wisdom to bloom. The Buddha lived with great simplicity. One robe, one bowl, one seat beneath a tree, and a mind as light as air. But in that emptiness, he became the most complete human being. In the Anguttara Nikaya, he taught, just as a tree blossoms when pruned well, the mind blooms when freed from excessive desires. Letting go isn't about losing, it's about lightening your load. When the load is lighter, your steps feel freer. When the heart is lighter, you can finally smile genuinely, effortlessly. Many people believe that peace comes from having more knowledge, more success, more control. But sometimes what you need most is less worry, less expectation, less unnecessary conflict. We can't control how chaotic the world is, but we can choose to simplify our inner world. We can learn to say no. We can learn to choose. We can learn to live simply. One day, I asked an elderly friend, "What's your secret to staying so calm and healthy?" He chuckled and said, "I just try to keep less stuff in my mind than I have in my house." It sounded so light, but it hit me deep. Because in the end, peace doesn't come from what you accumulate, it comes from what you release. Your mind is a garden. You are the gardener. If you don't tend to it, the trash will pile up. If you don't pull the weeds, the roots of negativity will grow deep. And if you don't know how to let go in time, even joy won't have room to bloom. The silence, a gateway back to yourself. Have you ever noticed? Sometimes what drains us the most isn't work, or people, or responsibilities. It's the noise inside our own mind. This noise doesn't come from speakers or busy streets. It's that invisible hum, a stream of relentless thoughts, echoes of old conversations looping in your head, and unnamed worries occupying space in your heart. Quietly, yet persistently, they steal our peace from within. The Buddha once said, "When the mind is not still, the path cannot be seen. When the heart is not quiet, you cannot hear your own calling." Silence, in Buddhist wisdom, isn't the absence of words. It's the presence of stillness, a sacred return where the distractions fall away and we finally hear what's true inside us. You can sit alone in a quiet room, yet if your mind is still busy arguing with the past, reliving old anger or regrets, that's not true silence. Because true silence is not just outer stillness, it's the inner echo, finally falling quiet. I remember a lay practitioner once shared with me, "I give myself 15 minutes a day to sit in peace. But the longer I sit, the louder my thoughts get." And I smiled gently, asking, "Are you trying to force your mind to be quiet?" Because sometimes we chase silence like chasing the wind. The more we grasp, the further it slips away. True stillness doesn't come from controlling the mind. It comes from softening our grip, from returning gently to the breath, to the now, to ourselves without rushing, without trying to fix. The Buddha meditated under the Bodhi tree in complete silence for 49 days, not to escape the world, but to understand it. And in that profound stillness, he awakened to the truths of suffering impermanence and egolessness. So don't underestimate the power of silence. It's not empty. It's fertile ground where wisdom takes root. In our modern lives, we're pulled in every direction. Notifications ping. Calendars fill. Social media never sleeps. The world constantly calls us outward, but rarely does it invite us inward. You hear 1,000 voices each day. But have you heard your own? Have you listened to your breath, or just your deadlines? Heard your weariness, or just the pressure to stay strong? True silence teaches you how to listen, not to judge, not to fix, but to be fully present with kindness for yourself. I often remind fellow practitioners, no insight can be born in chaos. Wisdom, like a flower, needs space. It needs light. That light is silence. You can start small. One morning without grabbing your phone first thing. One evening on the porch, simply listening to the wind. One night, sitting quietly with a candle and breathing with its flame. In time, you'll notice. In the silence, everything becomes clearer. You begin to see what's real and what's illusion. You begin to notice what's been hurting you all along that you never had time to face. Silence isn't about escaping life. It's about living it more deeply. Like still water reflects the sky, a still mind reflects the truth. As the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, calm is his mind calm, his speech and calm his action. Who rightly knowing is truly freed. You don't need to be a monk to experience deep silence. You just need to make space for it. Even 5 minutes a day, protect it like a flame in the wind. Let your mind rest. Let the inner chatter fade, and let your wisdom bloom in the soil of stillness and mindfulness. Mindfulness, the art of coming home to yourself. There are days when you do 100 things go to work. Cook answer messages, clean the house yet. By the end of the day, you still feel like you haven't truly lived. Your body is busy, but your mind is somewhere else entirely. When you're eating, you're thinking about work. When you're working, you're dreaming of your next vacation. When you're talking to someone, part of you is still stuck in an old conversation that never really ended. And just like that, the day slips away, and you weren't really present for any of it. The Buddha called this living in forgetfulness, going through life without realizing you're living. In Buddhist teachings, there's a profound word for the antidote to this sati mindfulness. But mindfulness isn't something lofty or out of reach. It's simply the art of being fully present in this moment, with a clear mind, without judgment, without rushing, without chasing the past or worrying about the future. When you walk, you know you're walking. When you drink tea, you know you're holding the cup. When you breathe, you're aware of the breath, not just with your head, but with your whole presence. It sounds simple, but in a world where the mind is constantly pulled forward by anxiety and held back by regret, coming home to the now is a courageous act. courageous enough to pause, courageous enough to look deeply, courageous enough not to run away from yourself. When your mind is leaping like a monkey tied to a dozen ropes, mindfulness is the grounding thread that brings you back to earth. You can begin with small things. When washing the dishes, don't rush to think about what comes next. Feel the cool water. Hear the gentle clinking of plates. Notice the movements of your hands. That alone is meditation, because when you're truly present, the mind naturally settles. There's no need to force anything. No need to push thoughts away. Just return softly, like a bird finding its way back to the nest. In a well-known sutra, the Buddha said, "A person who is mindful while walking, standing, lying down, or sitting is someone who has stepped onto the path of liberation." You don't have to climb a mountain. You don't have to withdraw from the world. You just need to be present with every step, every action, every word, as if you're gently embracing your life. And here's the miracle. When you're fully present, the mind becomes steady like the earth, no longer swept away by waves of emotion, no longer chasing what hasn't come or clinging to what's gone. Because your mind is here, and only here can peace truly exist. Someone once asked, "Does living mindfully mean I have to control every thought?" The answer is no. Mindfulness doesn't control. Mindfulness illuminates. Like sunlight, it doesn't force the plant to grow. But when there is light, growth happens naturally. In the same way, when the mind is lit with mindfulness, harmful tendencies begin to soften and wisdom slowly blooms. Some afternoons, all you need to do is sit by the window, watch a leaf fall, listen to the wind whisper through the trees. No need to think. No need to force meditation. Just be with the life that's unfolding right now. And what you may feel is a kind of quiet peace, not loud, not overwhelming, just as gentle as a smile. That peace doesn't come from outside. It's always been within you. You just forgot the way home. Mindfulness doesn't erase suffering, but it gives you a steadier heart to face it. Mindfulness won't stop anger or sadness from rising, but it gives you a pause before you react out of old habits. And in that pause lies your freedom. Freedom not to be dragged by emotion. Freedom to live more deeply. Freedom to choose a different path. The path of understanding, compassion, and clarity. The Buddha never taught us to escape life. He taught us to show up for it fully, peacefully, and with an awakened heart. The burden of a busy mind, when your mind becomes a desk cluttered with everything. There are days when you work non-stop, but when night falls, you feel like you haven't truly accomplished anything. That feeling doesn't come from the outside. It comes from a quiet overload, when your mind is stretched thin with no space left to truly rest. Imagine this. Your mind is like a desk. Every time you worry about something, a piece of paper gets laid on it. Each unanswered message, every unfinished task, more papers. Add deadlines, expectations, fears about the future, and unresolved issues from the past. Eventually, the desk is so full that there's no space left to do anything new. That's when the mind begins to spiral. Not because you're weak, but because the mind has become cluttered. The Buddha taught, the mind is like water. When agitated, it becomes difficult to see, but when still, it reflects the sky. Yet in modern life, our minds rarely become still. Each day, they're pulled in a dozen directions. You're working, but also thinking about bills. You're eating, but checking emails. You're talking to someone you love, but your mind is already in tomorrow's meeting. Multitasking isn't a superpower. It's mental fragmentation. Every time you switch tasks, your brain has to reboot over and over. And the price you pay is a quiet kind of exhaustion. Someone once said, "I'm not sick. I just don't feel happy anymore." That's the symptom of mental overload. You're alive, smiling, functioning, but inside your mind can't breathe. In Buddhism, this is called a scattered mind, a mind that runs in many directions at once, unable to rest, unable to anchor. The Buddha said, "A restless mind brings suffering, a trained mind brings peace." It means no matter how much you achieve, if your mind isn't settled, you'll still feel drained. But when you learn to return to yourself, to gather the mind, even a simple life can feel deeply fulfilling. So, how do we stop the mind from overflowing? How do we clear the clutter from that desk? The first step is realizing that we're carrying too much. Many people don't feel busy because they've normalized being overwhelmed, like someone living next to an airport. Eventually, they stop noticing the noise. But that doesn't mean their ears aren't tired. The same is true for your mind. You've gotten used to the tension, so you don't even notice it's crying for help. But look closely. You sleep yet still wake up tired. You take breaks but don't feel rested. You travel but bring along a tangled head. That's the moment your mind is asking you to return, not to run away from responsibilities, but to choose what's truly worth carrying and let go of what's weighing you down. You don't have to solve everything in a single day, but you do need to make space for your mind to breathe, like opening a window to let fresh air in. One simple practice. Take 10 minutes a day. Do absolutely nothing. Don't try to relax. Just sit, breathe, watch your thoughts. When you stop clinging to every thought, your mind begins to clean itself. Like dust, it settles when you stop stirring the air. And when it settles, what do you see? You remember what truly matters. You recall a moment of gratitude you had forgotten. You realize some worries no longer need to stay. You begin to feel behind all those burdens, a part of you yearning for lightness. The Buddha said, "Those who know how to put down their burdens know how to love themselves rightly." Self-love isn't just caring for your body. It's not forcing your mind to carry more than it can handle. Give your mind the chance to breathe, to soften, to return. Because if you don't do it for yourself, no one else can do it for you. A non-attached mind, the door to freedom and compassion. Have you ever noticed? The more tightly you try to hold on to something in your mind, a thought, a feeling, a beautiful memory, or even a pain, the heavier it begins to feel. The tighter you grip it, the more it pulls you in. And strangely, the more you try to keep it, the more it feels like you're losing your sense of freedom. Then at some point, you begin to understand suffering doesn't come from what happens. It comes from our inability to let go. The Buddha taught attachment is the root of all suffering. We cling to what we want. We cling to what we fear losing. We hold on to ideas like, I'm right, I've been hurt, I can't forgive. And when the mind clings, it no longer feels like a spacious sky. It becomes a small, crowded room where every thought takes up space and every emotion locks a door. But here's something powerful to remember. The mind was never meant to be a prison. Its true nature is as open as the sky. We were the ones who built the box by clinging to everything we were afraid to lose. There's a story of someone who came to the Buddha and asked, "Master, how can I find peace in my heart?" The Buddha didn't say a word. He simply picked up a glass, filled it with water, then let it fall. The glass shattered. The man was startled. The Buddha looked at him gently and asked, "What did you see?" The man replied, "The glass broke." The Buddha smiled. Exactly. It let go of everything and returned to emptiness. Such a simple gesture, but behind it, a deep teaching. The mind cannot be light when it is trying to hold on. It cannot understand when it's trying to prove it's right. It cannot be compassionate if it's still caught in separating self from others. And so when you stop trying to hold on to every thought, every feeling, your mind becomes like still water, clear, reflective, quiet. You begin to see, not with judgment, not with resistance, but with understanding. And from that understanding, compassion naturally begins to arise. Because you no longer separate yourself from others. You no longer think, my pain is worse, or they don't deserve forgiveness. You start to recognize their pain just as you once recognized your own. And in that recognition, softness appears. Compassion is not something you have to learn. It's something that arises when you make space for it, and to make space, you have to let go. Let go of what's right. Let go of what's wrong. Let go of all the proud versions of me you've been clinging to, because all of that is what keeps your mind tied to the circle of suffering. Some people say, but I can't let go. I'm afraid I'll lose everything. But the truth is, only when you let go can you finally receive, not possessions, but freedom, not victory, but generosity, not arguments won, but peace gained. When the mind is no longer holding on, you realize you no longer need to exhaust yourself trying to maintain appearances, control relationships, defend opinions. Because what is true will stay even when you don't cling. And what isn't will leave no matter how tightly you try to hold on. The Buddha said, to see impermanence is to see liberation. Because when you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, you stop clinging. And when you stop clinging, your mind expands like a sky without borders. You're no longer trapped in the past. You're no longer pulled by the future. You're no longer bound by an outdated self. You're just here. And here you are free. Think of it like a hand clenched tightly into a fist. It cannot receive anything new. The mind too, when it clutches, cannot receive peace. But when you open it, you lose nothing. You only become ready for something deeper. A vision without grasping. A love without walls. An understanding that needs no defense. Let go and let peace find you. Live fully in the present moment. Why the now is your true home. You've probably heard the saying, the present is a gift, but it's not a gift because it's always beautiful. It's a gift because it's the only thing that's truly real, truly in your hands right now. And yet, here's the strange part. Even though this gift is always right in front of us, most of us live as if we're somewhere else entirely. You're eating lunch, but your mind is already in that meeting later today. You're talking to someone, but your thoughts are trapped in an old conversation that never really ended. You're walking in nature, but your head is busy making next week's to-do list. And then you wonder, why don't I feel peaceful, even when nothing's really wrong? The Buddha once said, the past is no longer in your hands. The future has not yet arrived. The wise live anchored in the present. The present moment, it's not a layover. It's not just a brief stop on the way to something better. It is home. And if you're not truly present for it, if your heart and mind aren't here, then even the most precious things in life, love, peace, beauty, will slip right through you unseen. There's a story from the Buddhist tradition. A student once asked the Buddha, Master, how can I let go of my fears about the future and the pain from my past? The Buddha simply bent down, picked up a fallen leaf, and placed it in the student's hand. Then he said, hold this leaf as if it's all you have, because if your mind is not here with this leaf, you're also not here with yourself. The leaf was just a symbol, a reminder of this moment right now, because when you're fully present, the ghosts of the past can't reach you, and the anxieties of the future lose their grip. You're just alive, and you know you're alive. Now, living in the present doesn't mean forgetting your responsibilities or ignoring tomorrow. It means showing up fully for what you're doing now. When you're washing the dishes, you're not rushing to finish. You feel the water run over your hands. You hear the soft clinking of plates. You breathe. You're there. And that too can be a form of deep meditation. You don't have to sit cross-legged for hours. Just being fully awake in a single breath, a single action, that is meditation. There's a quiet irony in life. We spend so much time chasing happiness, but happiness always seems to live in the one place we rarely visit. Here, now. We think, once I achieve that, I'll be happy. But the truth is, this very moment is where joy is waiting for us to return. You might live 70 years, but if your mind is constantly jumping between regrets of the past and worries of the future, you may have only truly lived a few fleeting moments. So pause, just for a breath. Look into the present with eyes that aren't judging. Hear the chirp of a bird. Feel the air move through your lungs. Hold the hand of someone you love. And say quietly, this moment is enough. Because when you're here, not just in body, but in soul, this moment becomes alive, whole, sacred. The Buddha taught, only in the present can one truly touch life. The past is just memory, the future only imagination. But this moment, it is the only doorway to awakening. And when you live in that space fully, gently, gratefully, the weight of the past no longer finds a home. The seeds of worry can no longer take root. Your heart becomes like clean earth, no longer fertile for suffering, but open to peace, clarity, and the simple miracle of being here, alive. Karma. The mind is the gardener of destiny. There's something you might not have noticed, but it happens every single day. Every thought you have is a seed. Every word you speak is a planting. Every action, no matter how small, is a step across the invisible field we call karma. In Buddhist teachings, karma isn't some punishment handed down by an external force. It's simply the natural chain of cause and effect. You plant a mango seed, you get mangoes. You plant compassion, you receive gentleness. You plant anger, and your heart slowly begins to carry that heaviness year after year. And all of it begins with the mind. The Buddha once said, "The mind is the forerunner of all things. The mind is the chief. The mind shapes them all." If you speak or act with an impure mind, suffering follows like the wheel behind the ox. But if you speak or act with a pure mind, happiness follows like a shadow that never leaves. What a beautiful image, and how true it is. You don't need to wait for another lifetime to see the fruits of what you plant. Some seeds bloom quickly. A few kind words can ease someone's pain for the entire day. A single frown can ruin a peaceful evening. And some seeds, they lie dormant in the soil until one day, when you least expect it, they rise. Maybe you've wondered, I haven't done anything wrong. So why does life still feel off balance? But karma doesn't measure in right or wrong. It measures in energy, the vibration you're putting out into the world every day. If you're living in resentment, envy, or blame, you're standing in dry, infertile soil. Even if you're surrounded by wealth, peace will not bloom in your heart. But if you're rooted in gratitude, kindness, and understanding, even a modest life feels warm, rich, and meaningful, because good seeds start at the root. And karma doesn't care about who you are, how much you own, or your title. It only cares about the quality of your mind right now, in this very moment. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said it is the mind that pollutes the mind. It is the mind that purifies the mind. No one else can do that work for you. No one can plant your seeds, and no one can harvest your crops. But that shouldn't scare you. That should empower you. It means you are the gardener of your own destiny. You don't need to change the whole world to find peace. You just need to change the way you plant your seeds through your daily consciousness. Notice this. When you think a kind thought, your heart softens. When you do something generous, you sleep more peacefully. When you apologize or forgive, a weight lifts, even if the other person never acknowledges it. Because karma doesn't wait for applause. It works silently, but precisely. Each one of us is a gardener. The field is invisible, but the seeds are always in your hands. In every word you're about to speak, in every choice you're about to make, in every tone you bring into this very day. And if you don't choose consciously, that field will still grow, but it may sprout weeds born from old habits, unconscious reactions, and spiritual neglect. The Dharma teaches us to live as one who is awake, not to tiptoe through life in fear, but to be fully present with what we're creating. That's why mindfulness matters so deeply in the path of practice. Mindfulness is the light that helps you see each seed before it falls. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. We all lose our temper. We all stumble sometimes. But what matters most is this. Do you see the seeds you're sowing? And are you willing to plant again from a clearer, kinder mind? Let go, the doorway to inner peace. There's a kind of pain that no longer lives in the wound, but in the way we keep holding on to it. It's the pain of unhealed memories, the echo of words spoken long ago, still weighing heavy in the heart, the ache of things we wished we could change but couldn't. Have you ever asked yourself, it happened so long ago, why am I still not at peace? The answer might be this: you haven't truly let go. Not of the memory, not of the emotion, not of the way you're still gripping the pain as if releasing it would be a betrayal of yourself. But the Buddha taught, letting go is not losing. Letting go is the beginning of freedom. To let go doesn't mean to give up. It doesn't mean denial. And it certainly doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it never hurt. Letting go is an act of courage. It's a conscious choice to loosen the way we cling to our suffering and open another door. A door where the heart can finally breathe, soften, and move forward. Many people believe, if I forgive, I'll look weak. If I let go of expectations, I'll become indifferent. If I release someone, it means I never truly loved them. But no, letting go doesn't make your heart smaller. It simply makes your hands less heavy, so those same hands can now hold something lighter, something kinder, something new. There was a time someone asked the Buddha, I've forgiven, but why is my heart still unsettled? He replied, because you haven't let go of the pain you cause yourself by thinking, I've already forgiven. Why hasn't the other person changed? That answer so gentle, yet so profound. Because sometimes it's our attachment to the result that keeps us stuck. We say we've let go, but we're still waiting for the other person to realize their mistake. We let go, but we secretly hope for remorse. And when that doesn't come, the pain returns not from what happened, but from the expectations we tied to our letting go. The Buddha taught about unconditional loving kindness. That means letting go without needing a response, without needing to be understood, without waiting for the situation to change. Just strong enough in your own heart to say, I don't want to keep hurting myself anymore. Letting go is not cutting someone out. Letting go is loosening the grip. It's allowing the river to flow instead of clutching each drop of water as it passes. You can begin by releasing the smallest things. Let go of the self-blame for a mistake. Let go of the judgment in someone's eyes you can't control. Let go of needing to be recognized, to be right, to be validated. Let go so your heart can have a little more space. Because only in that space can peace find its way in. Imagine this, you're carrying a backpack. At first, it only has a few stones. Then another stone, words that hurt. Another disappointment. Another expectations unmet. Until one day, the backpack is so heavy you can barely walk. And you ask, why is life so hard? But maybe the real question is, why haven't I taken the stones out? Not everything needs to be carried. Not everything that happened needs an explanation or justice or closure. Some things simply ask to be let go. As the Buddha once said, no one can save you but yourself. No one can set you free if your mind is still clinging. And when you let go, you don't just rescue yourself from pain. You open the door for something better to arrive. Inner rest. Not to escape, but to see more clearly. Have you ever felt exhausted, not because your body ran out of energy, but because deep inside you no longer had a place to take shelter? In moments like that, we often wonder, do I need rest? Or am I giving up? Am I letting go or giving in? In a world that praises productivity, busyness, and pushing forward, rest is often misunderstood as weakness. But the Buddha taught, the one who knows when to stop is wise, because stopping isn't losing. Stopping is how we truly see the road we're on. No one can keep driving through fog forever. No one can sail the sea endlessly without returning to shore. Your mind, too. After long days of chasing obligations, emotions, responsibilities, and worries, needs a pause. Not to fall asleep, not to run away from life, but to come home. A Zen master once said, when the mind is too full, wisdom has no room to arise. You might read books, hear beautiful teachings, but if your inner space is overwhelmed, nothing truly settles in. It's like pouring water into a cup that's already full. What you get isn't more, but overflow. Resting in the truest sense isn't about avoiding problems. It's about creating stillness in the noise so you can finally see what's happening inside you. In Buddhism, this is known as the practice of quiet abiding. Stillness doesn't mean there's no sound around you. It means you're fully present with yourself. When you sit down, do nothing. Just breathe slowly and feel the breath moving in and out. You're not escaping life. You're entering a deeper current of life where you no longer need noise to prove you exist. Sometimes people ask, if I stop, who will take care of everything? Who will carry the weight? The answer isn't no one. The answer is you will again, but with a clearer mind and a steadier heart. Picture it like this. On a long hike, there are moments when you pause beneath a tree, not because you're weak, but because you know the road ahead is long. And if you keep walking without breath, without water, without paying attention to the path, you'll lose direction or burn out halfway. The mind is the same. When you allow yourself to pause the right way, your inner clarity begins to restore itself. And from that clarity, wisdom naturally flows like a spring beneath the earth. You don't have to force it. You don't have to chase it. You just have to stop long enough, deep enough. The Buddha once meditated beneath the Bodhi tree for 49 days, not to find a quick answer, but to become so still that the truth of all things could reveal itself. He wasn't running away from the world. He wasn't rejecting life. He simply rested the right way so he could see life with eyes no longer clouded by dust. And so can you. You don't have to move to the mountains. You don't have to become a monk. You just need to give your mind a seat each day. It doesn't have to be perfect, just quiet enough. Maybe it's a familiar chair in the corner of your room. Maybe it's a few quiet minutes on your porch as the sun sets. Maybe it's a pause between conversations. In that space, you don't have to do anything. Just be there with yourself, not chasing answers, not analyzing every emotion, just listening and letting the wisdom within you rise on its own. The still lake within, a path to seeing clearly. Have you ever stood beside a still lake in the early morning? before the wind begins to blow, before the water stirs, when nothing has touched the surface yet, you can see straight to the bottom. Every stone, every strand of moss, even the smallest ripple beneath the surface appears crystal clear, unfiltered, unedited. Why? Because the water is still, and so is our mind. The Buddha taught, the mind is the root. When the mind is pure, the world is pure. When the mind is like that lake undisturbed by greed, anger, or delusion, truth becomes visible. We stop being pulled by illusions, by judgments, by echoes of the past, or dreams of the future. We begin to see others clearly. We begin to see ourselves clearly. We begin to see the truth. But how often in our lives does our mind really become that still? Most of the time, we live like the ocean in a storm. One message shakes us. One harsh word angers us. One unmet expectation sends our heart spiraling. And in the middle of that emotional wave, we try to judge, to make decisions, to love, to hate, to choose, as if we could still see clearly through muddy water. But the truth is, we can't. Any action taken in the midst of emotional turbulence easily leads to more suffering. There's a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a man struck by an arrow. When others rush to help to remove it and save him, he resists. He insists on first knowing who shot me. What kind of wood is this arrow made of? Why did they do it? Where did they come from? But the real question was whether he wanted to live. Not why the pain came, but how to breathe through it and heal. That's what we often do with a restless mind. We chase questions that don't help us heal. And we get lost deeper in the fog. True inner stillness isn't about sitting silently for hours trying not to think. It begins when you can simply notice each wave in your mind and choose not to chase it. A burst of anger arises. You see it. You don't suppress it. You don't grab onto it. You let it pass like a cloud crossing the sky. A sadness surfaces. You acknowledge it. You touch it gently with mindfulness and compassion. No denial, no judgment. That is wisdom. The light that shines through the murky water, showing you the way back to your original clarity. When your mind is calm, you don't just see the world more clearly, you see yourself. Old wounds, long-held patterns, the shadow corners of your mind you've been avoiding. They begin to rise into view like the bottom of the lake revealed beneath still water. And only when you truly see them can you begin to transform them. Stillness isn't the absence of sound. It's when the noise no longer controls you. Stillness doesn't mean retreating from life into a mountaintop. It means being in the world, loving, working, hurting, but not letting it muddy your inner lake. And you know what? When you find that stillness within yourself, others will feel it. They'll feel at peace around you without needing advice, without needing words. Because sometimes your quiet presence is the most healing thing you can offer. When you are calm, the world becomes less noisy. And from that quiet lake of your own heart, you'll begin to witness miracles, not from outside, but from within. From wisdom, from compassion, from the deep knowing that you don't need to run anymore. Every answer you've been seeking is already here, resting quietly at the bottom of your still, clear lake. Have you ever sat quietly by yourself? and realized there's a non-stop conversation happening in your head, thoughts running back and forth, talking endlessly, like someone's living in your mind, narrating, arguing, imagining, worrying. One moment, that voice tells you you're not good enough. The next, it creates stories that never happened. Sometimes, it drags you into the past, filled with regret. Other times, it throws you into a future full of fear. And have you ever wondered, if I don't want to think anymore, why does it keep thinking? That's the nature of the mind. It thinks just like clouds drift across the sky. But here's the key. You are not the cloud. You are the sky. Thoughts are phenomena, not identity. They come and go like clouds passing over a mountaintop. If you mistake yourself for the clouds, you'll forever drift unsettled. But if you remember that you are the sky, you'll learn to remain still and simply observe. In Buddhist teachings, there's a beautiful image. The mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. Clouds may block the sun, but they can never erase the sky. We're so used to attaching ourselves to every thought. When a negative thought arises, we say, "I'm a negative person." When a painful memory returns, we believe I am that pain. But the truth is, thoughts are not you. They just pass through, like waves crashing onto the shore, then pulling back. If you learn to pause and watch, you'll notice something behind the waves. A vast, silent ocean. There's a Buddhist story of a young monk who asked his teacher how to calm the mind. The teacher told him, "Go sit by the lake. Look deep into the water." The student sat for a long time. The water stayed muddy. He came back and said, "I can't see the bottom." The teacher asked, "Did you stir the water?" "No," the student replied. "But my mind is still restless." The teacher smiled. "Then just sit. Don't try to do anything." So the student sat again, and over time, the water cleared. He saw the bottom, not because he did something, but because he stopped doing. The same is true for your mind. When you stop chasing every thought, the mind settles on its own, and in that stillness, the truth appears, not the kind manufactured by thoughts, but the deeper truth that's always been there beneath the noise. You can try this on a chaotic day. When your mind starts spinning stories, "They don't respect me. I'm not enough. Why doesn't that person love me?" Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this really me, or just a cloud passing by? Just recognizing that question brings you back to the sky. And in that sky, wide open, undisturbed, you don't have to do anything to be whole. You already are. You are the stillness. The Buddha once said, "Only the one who is not identified with thoughts is truly free." Not because they no longer have thoughts, but because they know thoughts are just guests. They are the house. So, dear one, if today your mind feels full of clouds, remember, you don't have to fight them. You don't have to force them to go away. Just don't follow. Let them pass. And soon the clear blue sky will reveal itself, as it always has been, quietly waiting behind the storm. You are the sky, not the cloud. Be compassionate with yourself. There's something strangely familiar about how we treat ourselves. A person can be kind to everyone else, and yet still be the harshest judge of their own heart. On the journey of letting go, What breaks most people isn't the past itself, but how they punish themselves for the past. Maybe it was a mistake, a wrong turn, a misplaced trust, a relationship that never found its way. And in the quiet moments, the mind becomes a courtroom. Memories are dragged to the stand, feelings are cross-examined, and the sentence is given without mercy. How could I have been so stupid? Why didn't I see it sooner? Why wasn't I stronger? But someone once asked, how could you have chosen differently when you didn't know what you know now? Being compassionate with yourself isn't weakness, it's wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, compassion isn't only about others. It's the ability to look deeply and understand that every action has a cause. And no one deserves condemnation for simply not understanding what they couldn't have understood yet. The Buddha said understanding is the foundation of compassion. When we understand ourselves, we stop judging others. And to truly understand others, we must stop being enemies to ourselves. Some people carry guilt for years, not because the mistake was so big, but because they never allowed themselves forgiveness. Like walking in the rain with an open wound, each step reopens it, not because of someone else, but because of the relentless voice inside. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean denying your mistakes. It means growing through them, so they're not repeated. Letting go is not a straight path. There are days when you feel free, like the past is finally behind you. And then one song, one scent, one glance brings it all rushing back. And you think, why am I still here? Why can't I move on? That's the very moment self-compassion is needed most. If someone you loved was in pain, what would you say? Would you shame them? Or would you sit beside them and whisper, "It's okay. Let time do its work." You deserve that same tenderness from your own heart. Self-compassion isn't about coddling emotions. It's recognizing pain without judgment. It's knowing that behind every reaction is an unhealed wound, and behind every mistake is a person who once tried their best with what they knew. When you treat yourself with compassion, you stop hurting others just to soothe your own pain. You stop needing someone else to be responsible for your wounds because you've learned to hold yourself. On the spiritual path, there's a quiet but profound truth. The more awakened a person becomes, the gentler they are with themselves, not because they're flawless, but because they've made peace with being human. They no longer demand their heart be strong all the time. They no longer need to prove they've healed. They simply become honest with what is and continue gently from there. Self-compassion is learning to listen to your own heart like a trusted friend, not a cruel supervisor. It's stopping the urge to say, "I should be better by now," and remembering healing has no deadline. It's realizing you don't need someone else to love you the right way in order to start loving yourself the right way. Those who treat themselves with compassion no longer use the past as evidence against themselves. They use it as a lesson, not a life sentence. And that is what truly sets them free. So if today you find yourself walking through regret, shame, or the echo of old mistakes, pause. The first love you need isn't out there. It's within you. It's when you sit quietly with yourself and say, "It's okay. I'm still learning. And I'm doing the best I can." And if there's still a pain, you're carrying a mistake, you haven't forgiven a moment you haven't let go. Give yourself one still moment, not to escape, not to blame, but to listen, to understand, to begin again with compassion. Because sometimes the most powerful healing doesn't come from the outside, but from the way you choose to treat yourself. If these words touched something deep in your heart, I invite you to continue this journey with us. A journey of mindfulness healing and self-discovery here on Buddhism Seeds. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with someone who needs kindness today, and leave a comment below. I read every message, and your voice matters. You are not alone, and sometimes one timely message can light up an entire soul.